It was 60 years ago that the last of the Nazi concentration camps were liberated, but not before millions of Jews died there. The number of Holocaust survivors is dwindling now, but one Chicago area man was only an adolescent when he was sent to one of those infamous camps. Today, he is a history teacher of sorts, telling area students his horrifying and at the same time life-affirming story. Eddie Aruza has more.
The Germans had lost the war.
For most of his life, Sidney Finkel did not and would not speak about what happened to him as a young Jewish boy in Poland. It wasn't until he was well into his 60s that he found the courage to speak as openly as he does today.
We are seeing is that the Nazis are bringing in cattle cars or like boxcars, you've seen them around, and the whole population is being pushed into these cattle cars. Women, children, old, young, everybody is being pushed into these cattle cars. The train takes off, and we don't know where they're going, but the Germans are very clever. In our hometown, they tell us that not to worry. These trains are going to a work camp, and conditions there are going to be real good.
Sidney Finkel was born Sevek Finkelstein in 1932 in the Polish town of Pietrokov. He was only 6 years old when his family was moved into a Jewish ghetto, and it wasn't long after that he began witnessing the destruction of his family. When he was 7, his older sister Ronya, seen in this photo on the right, was shot and killed as she gave birth to a son. Finkel was 9 when he saw his mother, pictured here on the left, for the last time before she was sent to die at the Treblinka concentration camp. Finkel himself endured slave labor camps and the infamous Buchenwald concentration camp, where he lost his father, all by the time he was 13.
The Nazis were in our hometown only like 2 weeks when they decided that Jews could not live in any other section but a section that was designated for Jews to live in.
But young Sevek endured, surviving starvation and typhus, and eventually ending up in a boarding school in England where he got his new name. In the early 50s, he came to the Chicago area to live with an uncle. But his horrifying experiences would remain buried within him for another 40 years.
Wouldn't read nothing about it. If there was something on TV, I would leave the room. I didn't even tell my children about it till 50 years later.
Why is that?
My main concern was that I wanted to forget the past, and I certainly did not want to burden my kids with this because I thought that they would take it on and feel some kind of a responsibility or guilt over it.
It was a trip to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. that finally unlocked Finkel's innermost secrets and got him to share his experiences with his children. It was then that his son asked him to tell his story to a group of students.
I was really nervous about that because I didn't have much memory and how would I do it, but I didn't want to disappoint my son, so I went before this class and I was astonished, really flabbergasted that these kids actually listened to me. They listened, there was of interest, they applauded me, and then, I just thought, wow, I must have something that they want to listen to.
That was 10 years ago. Finkel has since made a career of speaking to middle school and high school students, relaying what he went through when he was their age. He recently wrote and published his autobiography entitled Sevek and the Holocaust, the Boy Who Refused to Die.
Each time that I spoke, something else would pop out. That's why my story was never actually the same. And I found that by speaking about those things that I healed myself. I don't think of it as a mission, and I don't think of it as being my duties. Other survivors do, and it's great. I just do it because I like doing it. I like to interchange with young people, and I'm happy when I do it.
Finkel admits that it's therapeutic to speak about his Holocaust experience, but also says it brings him joy to see that he's leaving an impact on a generation for which the Holocaust is just another chapter in the history books.
As a member of a synagogue, I've had some overview of it, but I really haven't had the experience of having a one-on-one talk with someone who was actually in it and who had to go through the horrible times of that period.
You understand that it was a terrible time, and so sad, but hearing it, you just get the feeling, and it's really a lot to take in.
Sidney Finkel has been speaking to students now for 10 years, and even though he's now 73 years old, he says he has no plans to quit. But one thing he has not done is return to his native Poland to revisit the places that he tells young people about.
Of course, I would go to Treblinka and other camps, and hopefully I will also go to Germany and see Buchenwald, and especially walk those 10 miles that we walked from Buchenwald to Weimar. That's the railroad station there, where so many people were shot on the way because they just fell into the ditches, they couldn't walk. And I'd like to kind of pay my respect.
For now, the one place Finkel will keep going back to is the Chicago area schools, where his story is a living history lesson. For Chicago Tonight, I'm Eddie Aruza.
For more about Sidney Finkel and his book, go to our website, WTTW.com, and click on Chicago